Ever wonder what it takes to go from, well, selling lemonade, or maybe, should we say, vinegarade, to building a billion-dollar empire?
Sounds kind of rough.
Tell me about it. But that's what we're diving into today, the extraordinary life of Bob Parsons, the man behind GoDaddy,
The GoDaddy gal.
the one and only. And we're going way beyond those Super Bowl commercials.
Oh, right. Those were something else.
You said it. We've got excerpts from his autobiography, Fire in the Hole, the untold story of my traumatic life. And let me tell you, this book is quite the page-turner.
Really? What makes it so interesting?
It's like getting an exclusive peek behind the curtain from his Baltimore upbringing to the boardrooms of GoDaddy. Parsons doesn't hold anything back.
So you really get a sense of the man behind the mogul.
Exactly. Speaking of which, he talks about his childhood in East Baltimore as a crash course in resilience. Picture this: a young Bob, determined to make a buck with his very own lemonade stand.
Classic kid entrepreneur story, right?
Right, except there's a twist. Instead of lemon juice, he accidentally uses vinegar. Can you imagine the look on his customers' faces?
Oh no. Poor customers.
Yeah. But as he recounts this hilarious mishap, it reveals something pretty profound. He was learning, even back then, that the quality of your product can make or break you.
Talk about a sour start leading to some sweet success, huh?
You got it. He took that vinegar-soaked lesson to heart. But it wasn't just the lemonade stand. He talks about his paper rat selling extras outside the bus terminal, always hustling.
Sounds like those tough times really instilled a work ethic in him.
Absolutely. Parsons himself says those early experiences were his first taste of the business world.
He learned to spot an opportunity, take a risk, and bounce back from setbacks.
Exactly. Okay, but here's where things take a really dramatic turn. He goes from the hustle of Baltimore streets to the jungles of Vietnam.
Wow, talk about a different kind of boot camp.
You can say that again. Parsons doesn't hold back when describing his time in the Marines. The rigorous training, the camaraderie, the raw realities of combat.
Those experiences must have had a profound impact on him.
You see those core values of discipline and resilience being forged in him. What's amazing is that even in such intense, often dangerous situations, he finds moments of humor.
Like what?
Well, he jokes about being relieved that his uniform came with button-fly pants instead of a zipper.
Really? I guess you gotta find humor where you can get it.
For sure.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, there's one story about his first ambush in Vietnam that really got to me. He ends up saving another Marine's life, which is incredible in itself. But then, get this, he follows it up by saying the very first time he fired his rifle, it was at a snake.
A snake. Hold on.
Yeah, is that for real?
It sounds unbelievable, but that's Bob Parsons for you.
Full of surprises.
Totally. And that story, as crazy as it might sound, just underscores the chaos and intensity of what he lived through. Those memories stayed with him long after the war ended.
I can only imagine.
And not always in a good way. He's incredibly open about his struggles with PTSD, admitting that it took decades to even realize what he was dealing with. It's amazing he was able to achieve so much while silently battling those invisible wounds.
It's a powerful reminder that success doesn't erase the past. But what's so admirable is his willingness to be vulnerable, to talk about his struggles with PTSD, especially in a world where men are often expected to just tough it out.
Definitely. It makes his story all the more relatable, inspiring even. After all, if Bob Parsons can confront his demons, maybe it gives others the courage to face their own challenges head on.
Exactly. It's that honesty, that willingness to be open about his vulnerabilities alongside his triumphs that makes his story so powerful.
It really makes you think about the challenges so many veterans face when they come home.
It's rough. Parson talks about how he felt like he was dropped back into a world that had moved on without him, a world that couldn't understand what he'd been through.
That must have been incredibly isolating.
Totally. And that's where his entrepreneurial drive really kicks into gear.
He needed an outlet, a new mission.
It's like he channeled all that energy, all that intensity from the war into building something new.
And that became Parsons' technology.
You got it. But it wasn't an easy road. He actually lost his initial investment not once, but twice.
Wow. Most people would have given up.
Right. But not Bob Parsons. He had this uncanny ability to turn setbacks into lessons.
He talks about embracing big, hairy, audacious goals, right?
Exactly. And that fearlessness is obvious in how he approaches Parsons' technology. Imagine this. Back when software was mainly sold in stores, he goes all in on these full-page magazine ads.
People probably thought he was nuts.
Oh, they did. But he knew he had to be bold to stand out, and that's where his marketing genius shines through.
So how does he go from magazine ads to building a tech empire?
He realized that selling directly to people, first through mail order and then online, could revolutionize the whole industry.
He was cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. Creating a direct line to customers. Total game changer.
And then there are those marketing campaigns.
Don't even get me started on those GoDaddy Super Bowl commercials.
Some might say they were a little out there.
Maybe a little, but you couldn't ignore them, and that was the point. They got people talking.
He knew how to create a buzz, that's for sure.
He was a master at building a brand, something memorable. But it wasn't all just marketing flash. Parsons was a sharp businessman. He saw the potential of the internet early on.
He knew GoDaddy could be huge in the world of domain names and web hosting.
And he was right. But his life wasn't all about algorithms and domain names, you know?
There's a whole other side to him.
Right, absolutely. In his book, he's really honest about his personal life, his relationships, his quest for happiness, even his ongoing struggle with PTSD.
It's a side of him most people probably don't know.
For sure.
Yeah.
He admits to his shortcomings, especially in his earlier relationships. He talks about not always knowing how to be there, how to be a good partner, and how his PTSD affected his family.
It takes a lot of courage to admit those things.
It does. He doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. But then he meets Renee. And it's like this breath of fresh air, a real testament to second chances and finding love in unexpected places.
And she becomes more than just his wife. She's his partner in philanthropy.
Right. Their foundation has given millions to support veterans, underserved communities, and all sorts of innovative therapies.
It's incredible. But they aren't just writing checks, are they?
No way. They're really involved in the organizations they support. Parsons wants to make sure their donations are making a real impact. He even tells this story about a chance encounter with Danica Patrick,
The race car driver.
the one and only. It's actually how he ends up sponsoring her career and making her the face of GoDaddy.
Wow. Now, that was a genius marketing move.
Total genius. He aligned the GoDaddy brand with a rising star, someone who embodied speed, success.
And let's face it, a certain level of sex appeal.
Exactly. It was classic Bob Parsons, bold, unexpected, impossible to ignore.
But beyond the marketing, it also showed his desire to empower others, especially women in male-dominated fields.
Definitely. You know, he's got this big personality in business and in life, but what really struck me was this underlying theme of personal growth. He's not afraid to confront his past, his mistakes, and really try to be better.
It sounds like he's on a journey of self-discovery, not just building businesses.
That's it, exactly. He's searching for a life of meaning and purpose. He talks about his passions, golf, motorcycles, supporting vet friends. It's more than just hobbies.
It's who he is at his core.
And his support for veterans is so personal to him. He talks about how his time in Vietnam affected his mental health, and not just right after, but for decades.
He's really open about it too. Doesn't shy away from sharing his own PTSD struggles, how he found healing.
And he didn't just stick to traditional treatments either. He even talks about exploring these innovative therapies for PTSD, like Cereset and stellate ganglion blocks.
I'll be honest, I had to look those up.
Me too. And at first I thought, okay, is this really legit? But then as I kept reading about it, seeing how he embraced new approaches to healing, well, it just goes to show you, Bob Parsons isn't afraid to think outside the box.
He's always pushing boundaries.
Always. It's that same innovative energy he brings to everything. His business ventures, his personal life, everything.
It's like he's always searching for a better way.
Totally. And it's not just talk either. His foundation has given a ton of money for research into PTSD and other mental health challenges. They're funding clinical trials, advocating for better care for veterans. You can tell this is more than just a charity case for him.
It comes from a deeply personal place.
Absolutely. It all connects back to that sense of service he got from his time in the Marines, that duty to give back. It comes through in so much of what he does.
It's inspiring, really.
Totally. You know, there's this one story in the book that really stuck with me. It's about Parsons' dad. They weren't very close growing up, but after his dad passed away, Parsons went back to his childhood home.
What did he do?
He lay down in his father's bed, and he says he felt his father's presence, like he was finally able to grieve the relationship they never really had.
Wow. That's powerful.
It really is. It's a good reminder that even the toughest relationships can still have these moments of grace.
It's those unexpected connections that can really surprise you.
It's true. Bob Parsons, he's full of surprises, but I think that's one of the things that makes him so fascinating.
He's a self-made millionaire, but he's also incredibly relatable. He doesn't shy away from his struggles.
Exactly. He's a marketing genius, but he's also deeply committed to giving back. It makes you realize that life is messy. It's full of contradictions.
It's not always a straight line from point A to point B.
Definitely not. But those experiences, good and bad, they make us who we are. And I think Bob Parsons' story is a perfect example of that.
He wouldn't want us just to admire his success, though. He'd want us to learn from his journey.
Absolutely. Take those lessons of perseverance, ingenuity, compassion, and go make our own mark on the world. Find what we're passionate about, what goals we want to chase, and use our own experiences to make a difference. I think that's a pretty good takeaway.